What's up guys, welcome back. This is Anime Crossover. You'll be watching What If Naruto was a game developer in Marvel Part 3. Now, let's begin. Bruce Banner remained astonished after viewing the livestream on his mobile device. At present, he was residing in a small town in Brazil, aware that the US government was pursuing him. He considered Brazil to be an ideal location for concealment, given its relatively low public safety and limited governmental oversight. There are valid concerns regarding the actions of citizens, indicating a potentially favorable environment for international criminal activities. There were rumors suggesting that Michael Jackson and Hitler were concealing themselves in Brazil, as it was believed they would be difficult to locate. However, Bruce recognized these claims as mere fabrications from those with nothing better to do. In this position, he was employed at a factory that offered minimum wage, along with provisions for accommodation and meals. With the funds he received, Bruce was able to manage his expenses effectively, allowing him to purchase only the essentials and enjoy socializing with the friends he made in that country. Yesterday, he received intriguing information from one of the employees at the factory. "My son has begun playing a game known as Minecraft. Are you familiar with it? My wife also engages in gameplay when my son is not utilizing the computer," Jorge remarked after taking a sip of the beer. "Minecraft. I am not familiar with that." Lucas reacted with an indifferent demeanor. "I recommend conducting some research. Since my son began playing Minecraft, he has distanced himself from the individuals living nearby and has also shown improved behavior at school. By stating that any inappropriate behavior will result in a 3-day suspension from playing Minecraft, he has demonstrated increased compliance," Jorge remarked with a smile as he continued to enjoy his beer. Upon hearing this, Lucas expressed interest and requested Jorge to provide further details about the game. This game is straightforward and can be run on any computer, including older models. Upon payment of 40 Brazilian reals, the game will be installed on the computer, allowing anyone to engage with it. It offers an immersive experience, enabling players to enter a virtual world and partake in activities such as eating and drinking within that environment. Jorge recalled with a broad smile the various dishes he experienced at Hypixel after his son provided an explanation of its functionality. Initially, Lucas was taken aback, but upon reflecting that this game was likely created by a brilliant mind in the USA, he composed himself and considered it a normal occurrence. After all, it is said that in the US, there is even an individual who dons a robotic suit, soaring through the city while firing lasers. Thus, developing a game of this nature shouldn't be overly challenging, correct? While Lucas perceived this as normal, Bruce, who was also partaking in drinks with the two men, was taken aback. He continued to monitor developments from the US and recognized that this type of technology remained a considerable distance from the present era. Upon returning to the factory, Bruce's initial action was to connect to the employee dorm Wi-Fi and research this individual associated with Minecraft. Despite his employment in a factory, Bruce was an exceptionally knowledgeable scientist with expertise in nuclear physics. True to the spirit of scientific inquiry, Banner was eager to explore the potential innovations that this new discovery could offer to the world. He began to consider whether this technology might assist him in addressing the issues he faced following exposure to a gamma-ray bomb. However, Bruce was taken aback to find that the livestream resembled a scene from a Disney movie. No, it surpasses even Disney movies. It's nearly indistinguishable from reality, except for the square shapes of the characters and the cohesive environment that surrounds them. Despite the unremarkable square design, Bruce found himself captivated by the unfolding narrative and remained engaged with the livestream for several hours. Ultimately, he observed Notch reaching out to the players for assistance and inquiring if there were additional individuals available to provide support. Bruce had grown weary of the routine of working throughout the day and socializing at a bar in the evening, prompting him to reflect. Why not? In the dormitory, there were several outdated computers available for staff use. Utilizing a portion of his savings, Bruce purchased a game priced at 40 Brazilian reals, equivalent to $20 in his previous currency. He then settled in for the night while the game downloaded on the factory's slow internet connection. To Bruce's surprise, the game download was completed in mere seconds. At first, he believed he had been deceived into purchasing a counterfeit version of the game. However, upon confirming that this was indeed the official Steam page for the game, Bruce felt a sense of concern and proceeded to click play to connect to World of Minecraft. Unbeknownst to Bruce, he was not the sole individual linked to Minecraft. His mind established a connection to the game, leading to his conscience entering the Minecraft realm. However, within his mind, there existed another conscience as well. Hulk was in a state of slumber until he sensed his awareness being drawn to a luminous location, which left him feeling both frightened and enraged. Upon realizing that his size had diminished and his strength was significantly reduced, Hulk's anger intensified, leading him to strike everything in his vicinity. To Hulk's astonishment, in this environment, he had the freedom to strike anything he desired. From the earth, trees, stone, animals, and individuals referred to as villagers. Hulk experienced an unprecedented level of happiness, having always been compelled to restrain himself. In the past, whenever he caused destruction, he faced criticism and hostility. However, in this environment, he found the freedom to unleash his strength without fear of reproach. The Hulk expressed his enthusiasm with a broad smile and a loud proclamation. Hulk is pleased, Hulk will overcome all obstacles. Unbeknownst to anyone, the individual holding the record for the most broken blocks had begun playing Minecraft, and that individual was none other than the Hulk. Bruce Banner engaged in several hours of gameplay in Minecraft and found the experience to be quite enjoyable. What surprised him the most was how this game company succeeded in making players aware of this game. Despite his contemplation, Bruce was unable to arrive at a satisfactory answer to that question. None of the options he considered were logical. He was further astonished upon discovering reports of players receiving capes or potions from the game in real life, and that these items had tangible effects on individuals beyond the virtual environment. What he ultimately came to understand was that the anger he had to manage consistently had dissipated after engaging in Minecraft. Following Bruce's exposure to gamma rays, he has experienced persistent anger and has had to actively manage this emotion to prevent transforming into the Hulk. However, after engaging with Minecraft, the frustration he had struggled to manage for many years vanished entirely. The Hulk vanished after I engaged in playing Minecraft. Bruce contemplated in astonishment. However, what he was unaware of was that during his time in the real world, Hulk continued to engage in playing Minecraft. At this juncture, Hulk was experiencing a degree of frustration in Minecraft. However, due to the enjoyment he derived from that environment, he was still able to maintain clarity of thought as he observed the rock he had been striking for 10 minutes. Bedrock. The Hulk is unable to crush this rock. However, the Hulk has a strong desire to crush this rock. Hulk reflected as he surveyed bedrock, experiencing a sense of confusion for the first time in his life. Naruto was unaware that even Hulk was enjoying Minecraft, let alone that Asgard viewed Minecraft as a potential threat. However, even if he were to encounter a threat, he would remain relatively unconcerned, as he was aware of the numerous formidable entities within the Marvel Universe. Given that he had not faced any attacks thus far, it was reasonable to conclude that the location he occupied was likely secure. He recognized the necessity of enhancing his own strength. However, he was not inclined to hastily allocate his gaming points towards powers at this moment. It was more prudent to focus on investing in additional games to maximize his daily point earnings. Minecraft sales experienced a significant surge following the Herobrine incident. Upon hearing players remark that the battle was broadcast on television, and considering Minecraft's shadow ban on the internet, it became evident that many individuals were introduced to the game. The sales figures, which previously took several days to reach 200,000, were now approaching 1 million. In just 20 hours following the Herobrine attack, Minecraft achieved impressive sales, reaching nearly 800,000 copies sold in that brief period. Despite efforts to conceal this enigmatic game, individuals online successfully disseminated information, allowing a wider audience to discover it. Naruto anticipated that by the conclusion of the event, Minecraft would achieve sales of at least 10 million copies, or potentially even higher. With 5 million copies, Naruto would possess sufficient gaming points to develop a AAA RPG. Initially, he aimed to develop an advanced RPG, However, due to the rapid sales of Minecraft, Naruto opted to shift his focus towards creating a AAA RPG. He presently possesses 140,000 gaming points, nearly 5 times the amount he had the previous day. If players are enjoying Minecraft so much, I am eager to see their reactions to the next game. Naruto remarked with a chuckle while enjoying another Shokugeki no Soma sandwich. Have you identified any significant findings? Nick Fury inquired with a tone of irritation while directing a piercing gaze at his agents. Clinton responded in a solemn tone. The physics in that game differs significantly from the physics of our world. I attempted to shoot some arrows there and found it considerably easier than when using my own bow. Maria Hill additionally disclosed her findings. The engineering team at SHIELD has initiated research on Industrialcraft and is currently evaluating its viability. According to the engineers, there is a significant potential for successful implementation. The issue at hand is that our existing technology is insufficient to accomplish those tasks within a brief timeframe. Perhaps Tony Stark could assist with that. Fury acknowledged the necessity of reaching out to Tony Stark once more. Initially, he believed Tony's expertise would be required solely for the Avengers initiative. However, he soon realized that he would also need Tony's exceptional intellect to comprehend Minecraft before extending an invitation to join the Avengers. Has there been any recent discoveries regarding Thaumcraft? Fury inquired. The agents confronted one another, seeking a resolution, yet all that could be seen were heads shaking in negation. They lacked a comprehensive understanding of magic, rendering testing impractical. That is reasonable. Now let us address the significant issue at hand. Have you gathered any information regarding Notch or Herobrine? Fury inquired in a deep tone. My team was unable to uncover any information on either individual beyond publicly available details. It appears that Notch is one of the earliest players of Minecraft, suggesting he may be the creator of that world. In contrast, Herobrine emerged during a livestream, where he startled 2 players. However, neither has made any significant contributions prior to these events. An agent spoke in a weary tone. This agent dedicated the past 20 hours to searching for any information regarding Notch or Herobrine, yet it seemed as though these individuals had never existed. He conducted a search for names of children born several years prior, primarily focusing on siblings, but found no results. Until Natasha rose and conveyed her thoughts. Notch appears to be a decent individual, and it is widely accepted that he is the creator of Minecraft. However, there is no definitive evidence to suggest he was the sole contributor. It is also possible that Minecraft represents another realm they governed. In my view, while Notch seems to be a good person, Herobrine stands in stark contrast, embodying the characteristics of a cruel and bloodthirsty villain. A ruthless and merciless antagonist. Nick Fury reiterated with a weary demeanor. He recognized their limitations, particularly if either of these 2 formidable entities were to arrive on Earth. Therefore, his primary focus was to expedite the Avengers initiative and allow superhumans to manage the situation. It is encouraging to note that the captain is already on the path to recovery. Fury reflected on the captain he envisioned for this team. Naruto remained oblivious to the discussions SHIELD was having regarding Notch and Herobrine, as well as the ongoing investigation into siblings named after them globally. Even if he were aware, it would not concern him. Even the Supreme Sorcerer was unable to uncover any information regarding him, much less SHIELD, which continues to depend on technological methods for tracking. Following the expulsion of blood, Notch distanced himself from the players and rendered himself invisible once more. He was quite impressed by the level of organization demonstrated by these players. The teams were organized, warehouses were stocked, supplies were in place, and distribution lines were efficiently established. Everything was operating so smoothly that Naruto could not envision a more effective approach to achieving success. Naruto observed the players in various locations celebrating their victory, while in other areas, discussions arose regarding Notch and Herobrine. However, he was determined to ensure that those players remained vigilant, even after the battle had concluded. Naruto aimed to create an environment where players would believe that monsters could emerge at any moment. They say nothing is so good that it can't get worse. However, the creeper consistently disrupts those plans. Naruto observed as he picked up a creeper egg. However, this particular egg, unlike the typical green and black ones, was distinguished by its green and red coloration. A number of novice players were making their way to the warehouse to acquire either a wooden or stone sword in anticipation of joining the battle. Several players have recently purchased Minecraft and have already engaged in battles after observing livestreams online, without having played in single-player mode. Included among these novice players was Bruce Banner. This marked his initial experience with Minecraft multiplayer, where he emulated the actions of other players and was directed to the warehouse to acquire a weapon and participate in the battle. Individuals who are new to Minecraft kindly remain on this side, while those with experience should position themselves on the opposite side. It is essential to establish a distinction to enhance efficiency. A player identified as Malaje04 expressed their frustration towards the other players. Following this information, 90% of players aligned with the novice player side, whereas only 10% chose to join the experienced player side. This caught Malaje04 off guard, as each time she posed this question to players visiting the depot, the ratio of newcomers to veterans rose. Minecraft continues to gain popularity, she reacted with surprise. Before she had the opportunity to speak, a novice player gestured in a different direction and inquired with confusion. "Could you please identify the green creature with 4 legs?" The veteran players dismissed the situation, considering it merely a random creeper, while focusing their attention on Malaje04, who was distributing weapons to them first. As time progressed, the number of novice players expressing concerns about this creeper began to rise, leading to a moment where a seasoned player appeared perplexed. Upon encountering the creature, he recognized it as a creeper. However, the sheer size of the creeper and the length of its legs left the player in a state of shock, rendering him speechless as he pointed at the creature. Upon observing this astonished player indicating a specific direction, other experienced players instinctively followed his gesture and shared in his surprise. "What on earth is happening?" A player expressed frustration. "Is that a creeper?" Another player expressed surprise. Upon encountering the creeper that the players were discussing, Malaje04 experienced a similar level of astonishment as her peers. "I require assistance immediately," she expressed her surprise. However, as a soldier in Wakanda, Malaje04 responded swiftly and addressed the players with urgency. Promptly, "Please proceed to the warehouse to collect a sword. Kindly ensure that you retrieve only one sword during your visit. We must eliminate this mutant creeper to ensure the safety of the warehouse." The players were both shocked and excited upon hearing Malaje04's scream. Shortly, the warehouse became populated with players as they opened chests and equipped themselves with swords and leather armor to engage in battle against the formidable giant monster. Experienced players who had gathered their equipment swiftly approached the mutant creeper, employing a kiting strategy against this formidable creature. Unlike standard creepers that merely detonated, this giant variant also launched attacks. Its range exceeded that of the players, necessitating that at least one player be targeted before they could effectively engage the creeper. "Please step away," a player exclaimed after striking the creeper. Upon hearing this, the players strategically withdrew before regrouping and launching a coordinated attack on the creeper after a brief interval. During this time, players with low health distanced themselves from the creeper to consume resources and regain health, while those at full health approached the monster to attempt to engage it. Despite players implementing safety measures, inexperienced individuals unfamiliar with strategies for confronting monsters in Minecraft continued to face rapid defeats. However, the demise of these newcomers simultaneously presented numerous opportunities for seasoned players to inflict significant damage on the creeper. In contrast to standard creepers, this mutant creeper possessed significantly more health, requiring players to strike him numerous times before he could be defeated. In a scenario where all players possessed advanced skills, eliminating the creeper without casualties would be straightforward. However, given that a significant majority of the players engaged in combat were inexperienced, the number of fatalities was notably elevated. Malaje04 stood alongside Malaje02, observing the battle while safeguarding the warehouse from potential threats posed by other monsters. The sight of numerous inexperienced players succumbing in their attempts to defeat the mutant creeper elicited a sense of empathy in the two women. Upon the demise of monsters, they release equipment for players to collect. However, when players fall, their equipment vanishes. Each rookie player who perished in this battle represented a loss of valuable equipment that can never be recovered. Should this conflict extend beyond a reasonable duration, we risk depleting our entire supply. Malaje02 stated in a deep tone. Eliminating this creeper will yield significant benefits. Malaje04 stated with assurance. After some time, the two Malaje exchanged puzzled glances, their expressions reflecting confusion. That is a creeper. However, what is the reason it does not detonate? Malaje04 inquired of Malaje02. Before Malaje02 had the opportunity to respond, they observed the creeper mutant's large legs twitching, followed by the creature launching itself into the air. The sight of the creeper soaring through the air caused the players to feel a chill of apprehension. This is unfortunate. I believed we had already secured victory. Where did this creeper originate? A player celebrating at a distance observed a creeper in flight and experienced fear. There appears to be a large creeper in flight. Another player expressed surprise upon noticing the creeper in the sky. Please observe, that is the warehouse located over there. Another player expressed alarm as he began to flee. Players understood that this was the warehouse designated for storing spare weapons and armor for those joining the battle. If the warehouse were to be destroyed, the new players would be left with no choice but to rely on their bare hands to confront the monsters. Given the increasing strength of the monsters, this would be an exceedingly perilous endeavor. It is imperative that we ensure the security of the warehouse. Another player expressed alarm as he hurried towards the creeper. The players who believed the battle was secured suddenly experienced fear and retreated towards the mutated creeper. Naruto, soaring above Hypixel, wore a smile as he observed the scene below. That was his intention. If players became accustomed to tranquility, they would not be prepared for conflict in Minecraft. Naruto may have been embellishing his statements, yet his primary goal was to engage the emotions of the players. He aimed for them to share their remarkable experiences with others after leaving Minecraft, thereby attracting even more participants to the game. Upon the creeper's descent, the moment it made contact with the ground, a significant explosion ensued, affecting the surrounding area, including several chests utilized by players for item storage. To assist in the conflict, the players stationed at the wall returned and engaged in combat against the creeper. Naruto aimed to withhold the gratification of defeating a mutant monster on the initial day, intending to reserve that experience for subsequent days. With a smile, he took to the skies. Unexpectedly, Notch reappeared in the sky of Hypixel. This time, he appeared even more frail than when he previously vanished. It is likely that his wound was deteriorating, yet he returned and proceeded to fly to the creeper. Please step away from him. Notch expressed it in a composed manner, yet I could perceive the diminishing strength in his voice. Upon observing a pale-faced Notch approaching, the players promptly began to engage him in conversation. Please refrain from coming. Notch, it is important for you to take some time to rest. One player expressed concern. Certainly, take a break, we will manage it. Another participant expressed fear. Indeed, please refrain from coming. The players expressed concern for Notch, while Naruto, who was managing Notch, felt a sense of frustration. Although he intended to assist players in eliminating the creeper, he was also reluctant to provide the satisfaction of a swift defeat. However, he quickly formulated a strategy to address the situation. We are approaching a critical deadline. Notch expressed his concern vocally. Shortly thereafter, thunder descended from the sky and struck the mutant creeper. Upon being struck by thunder, the mutant creeper was surrounded by blue lightning bolts. Individuals in proximity to the creeper experienced minor lightning strikes emanating from it, resulting in some damage. Because of the equipment they were employing, players were able to destroy the creeper, but it would take hours and wreak significant damage to the city. When the gamers realized this, they quickly backed away from the creeper and let Notch to do what he wanted. Naruto had to restrain himself from smiling at that time, but Notch maintained a pained appearance as he pointed a finger at the creeper. When Notch pointed his finger at the creeper, a purple gateway similar to the nether portal opened at the monster's feet, sucking it into the other dimension. Notch got more paler and began panting, demonstrating to the players how tired he was. Nonetheless, Notch flew to a higher location above the city, where all players could see him, and eventually spoke up. "Citizen of Hypixel, unfortunately, Herobrine got his wish. I've been tending an apple tree since I was born, but it hasn't produced any fruit in hundreds of years. Then, after several years, the tree began to produce fruit. 10 years ago, these fruits were growing rapidly and were born healthily yesterday." Notch finished speaking and took an item from his inventory. In front of millions of players, Notch held up a golden apple. This golden apple was so lovely that it actually shined. "This golden apple is one of the fruits from the tree I planted. Unfortunately, the tree only had 3 fruits, one was snatched by Herobrine, and the other is the golden apple in my hand. The third apple had no owner." Notch spoke with a gloomy expression. Notch ate the golden apple in front of millions of gamers and tens of millions of viewers who were watching the players' livestreams from home. Notch's body began to mend at a rapid pace. Notch's pale skin recovered to a healthy color, and his hair, which had been slightly dry at this point, returned to a high shine. Players were startled because such a result could not be achieved with a single-player healing potion. Notch soon continued, "As you can see, this golden apple can treat all of a person's injuries. Not only that, but it has the potential to double a person's present physique. Herobrine is my little brother, but he was always stronger than me. Now that he ate a golden apple and his body was twice as strong as before, even though I also ate a golden apple, the distance between us two just increased. So, I beg for your assistance in protecting Hypixel, and the person with the highest stake will receive the last golden apple as a reward. Of course, you can bring the golden apple, potions, and previous covers with you." When Notch concluded his final sentence, there was stillness between the players. They were astounded by this. The golden apple seemed magical. It could treat any sickness. It has the potential to increase someone's power by double. If a sick person consumed the apple, they would become instantly healthy. If a person in a wheelchair received the apple, they would be able to walk again. If a poor person obtained the apple, they could resell it for millions of dollars. Soon, the players awoke and began chattering excitedly. Everyone wanted that apple. Even if some knew they'd never be able to do it, it was still worthwhile to try. While players were excited by this, world governments began conducting emergency meetings to discuss the golden apple. Naruto merely smiled as he watched it. Naruto eventually disconnected from Minecraft to rest following the revelation of the golden apple. As much as he hadn't done much physically during this combat, Naruto was mentally exhausted from having to control Notch and Herobrine, as well as put up everything required for it to function. Naruto opened the system, interested about how many Minecraft copies he had sold during today's event. Minecraft 1,600,000 games sold equals $32 million, average time played, 9 hours. Peak concurrent players, 912,110. Total earned server sales, $70,643. Total earned VIPs, $3,190,975. 5,000 gaming points for the basic RPG. Advanced RPG, 50,000 gaming points. 500,000 gaming points for the AAA RPG. 1,000 gaming points for the basic adventure. Advanced adventure, 10,000 gaming points. AAA adventure, 100,000 gaming points. Basic FPS, 500 gaming points. 5,000 gaming points for advanced FPS. 50,000 gaming points for the AAA FPS. Basic Sandbox 200 gaming points. Advanced Sandbox, 20,000 gaming points. Sandbox AAA, 2 million gaming points. Naruto was surprised. The number of copies sold prior to the event had not even reached 300,000. Suddenly it had risen to 1,600,000. To Naruto's amazement, sales continued to increase rapidly every time he refreshed the status page. 1,610,000, 1,620,000, 1,630,000. Really, after this event, no matter how hard world governments try to hide Minecraft, it will be impossible, especially with the golden apple, because everyone in the world will know about it and invite them to play. If they're lucky, They might win this apple and become billionaires. If not, they can still have fun with their friends and family. Naruto thought to himself, satisfied with his plan for this event. He was already unhappy at SHIELD and the governments for imposing a shadow ban on Minecraft, stopping the game from spreading, but now that people are talking about Minecraft offline, the government would be unable to control it. Minecraft sales in this world will probably be even higher than in my old world, since here even adults and seniors will enjoy the game without thinking it's something childish. Naruto expressed satisfaction as he watched the figures increase. With that $32 million, I can convert it into 160,000 gaming points, which is enough to create an advanced RPG, but with Minecraft's quick expansion, I'd better devote myself to making this event more enjoyable. Probably till the end of the tournament. I already have 500,000 gaming points to create the next game. Naruto made up his mind before getting something to eat and resting his mind. After resting, he planned to work harder to better the event the next day. Around the world, something unexpected happened. A computer game has captivated people of all ages and socioeconomic backgrounds. Good evening, Fox News viewers. I believe that during the afternoon of this day, many viewers around the country must have encountered a very unusual situation, a man dressed smartly said on television at an American family's house. Do you see love? I explained that it wasn't only my employer that gave me the day off, but numerous others as well. I was not fired. A man expressed his frustration as he looked at his wife, who was upset with him. He had returned home earlier since his supervisor had told him he needed to go home, buy Minecraft, and help protect Hypixel. The corporation will even cover the $20 cost of purchasing Minecraft for the staff. According to the employer, this is part of the job as a home office. The father was overjoyed to be offered time off to play a computer game, despite the fact that he had never played one before, but because his kid often did, he saw it as something simple that was far preferable to staying at work moving boxes. But as soon as he got home, his wife began punching him, questioning why he wasn't at work. Even if the man explained, his wife couldn't believe that a boss would pay his staff to go home and play computer games. Despite the woman's protests, the man ignored her and began playing the game. He didn't comprehend the game and was concerned his boss would discover he didn't play and deduct a day's wages. The man was terrified when he first entered the game, but after learning how it worked, he participated in the Hypixel war and felt as if he had been a part of a big world war, helping his compatriots defend their country against the army of the enemy. During the war, the man felt his fury boil, but after the combat finished and he disconnected from the game, he noticed his wife staring at him with deadly eyes. After 30 minutes of squabbling, the two settled down on the couch to watch the news. To the man's delight, the program's presenter has already begun the program by discussing what happened today in the country as well as the battle in which he participated. This afternoon, many businesses closed early, and others even encouraged employees to go home and buy the game Minecraft to join in a fight to defend the city from the gamers. The entire conflict was filled with emotions and turns, until the players realized that the major combat was taking place in the sky of Hypixel. Two brothers were competing for control of the city. One, known as Notch, was assisting and receiving assistance from the players, while the other, Herobrine, was commanding the monsters and seeking to defeat the players. Finally, it was determined that this conflict was fought mostly to obtain a golden apple, a fruit with amazing powers capable of curing any disease and bending a person's will. And it appears that this fruit can be carried into the real world. Many hospitals are now purchasing old laptops for patients who want to play games and have a chance to receive the golden apple, while friends and co-workers are forming groups all over the world to organize and positively impact the war in order to obtain the apple. According to the game's official website, Herobrine will assault again tomorrow at 10 a.m. Therefore, if anyone wants to buy something tomorrow, I recommend leaving early or buying later, as the market you want to go to may be closed. It's too loud. Hearing this, the man's wife was stunned and glanced at him, unsure what to say. See, I told you I wasn't lying. The man remarked this while scratching the damaged arm that his wife had hit. As Minecraft sales rose and people all over the world went crazy for the new game, Naruto, who was at home eating bacon and pepperoni noodles, was astonished to receive a notification. Naruto put up some hidden goals a few days ago to see how far Minecraft players would go. Naruto got a notice detailing the person's name and how they accomplished the accomplishment every time someone finished it for the first time. Naruto spent some gaming points to finish this, but he thought it was worth it since understanding your audience is the most essential thing for a service provider. Some of these accomplishments were: kill 10,000 players in Hunger Games, or place 100,000 blocks in survival mode. There were hundreds of other ones. Naruto has already figured out who the players are that are greatest at constructing, fighting, planting and collecting food, and even fishing. Naruto had accomplished a conquest that was almost impossible for enjoyment. Break a bedrock. Naruto remembered that everyone knew bedrock was unbreakable. Even if the player used an autoclicker to strike alone and left with a netherite pickaxe hammering the bedrock for a year, the stone would never break. But Naruto chose to include an Easter egg in the Minecraft world he made. If someone hit a bedrock with their hands for 6 hours, it would shatter. To make it more harder, bedrock would always look the same for 6 hours, even after the player struck it. After 6 hours and 1 second, it would break. A normal person would have given up after tapping bedrock for 5 minutes and seeing that the stone didn't alter. They would have thought it was impossible. But strangely, Naruto's computer told him that someone had completed the task: destroy a bedrock. How is that even possible? Naruto was surprised when he discovered in the game records that one player had been hammering a bedrock with his hands for 6 hours straight without any tools. The best part is that this person only played for 8 hours overall. That means they only spent 2 hours in Minecraft and the other 75% of their time destroying a bedrock. Naruto was curious, so he looked at this guy's other accomplishments. He didn't even have a craft achievement or a crafting table. This player spent 2 hours smashing items and another 6 hours breaking a bedrock. Who would do something like that? Naruto promptly made this player's single-player game a private server and joined. Naruto, of course, entered the battle without anybody seeing him and didn't allow any messages in chat let him know he was there. Naruto instantly located this player's position by looking at the game data and teleported to him. Naruto observed that the player was on the lowest level in the world. He thought that the player had come here by shattering the block below him, but what surprised him the most was that the player didn't use a pickaxe and accomplished it all with his hand. Curious, Naruto stared at the player and noticed that he was shouting and throwing fists with both hands in both directions. Anger Hulk. Hulk was breaking black stone for a long time, and there was another black stone under the black stone. The player with Steve's skin was yelling at himself and punching his hands in every way. Naruto thought this guy's response was humorous at first, but when he heard what this player said, he stopped laughing and was startled. Did that player just say Hulk? Naruto thought about attempting to comprehend. Naruto attempted to see what this player looked like in real life by giving him a mental order, but he couldn't discover any bodies. Naruto looked through the data for a player called Bruce Banner after coming up with another notion. Naruto located 7 individuals with that name. By looking at their IPs, he realized that one of them was playing from Brazil, and it just so happened that it was the same IP as the person who was chanting Hulk. He's really the Hulk. They were finally persuaded of the reality, and they were startled. Naruto felt it would be funny to alter the Hulk's skin himself. The Hulk, who used to look like Steve, turned into a strong green-skinned guy with no shirt and purple shorts in the blink of an eye. Hulk was so mad that he didn't even realize that his hands had changed color and began destroying stuff. Naruto had a strange notion and wanted to do something amusing with Hulk. Naruto used mental orders to adjust a setting for the Hulk. Now, depending on how many blocks he destroys, his fists are as strong as the game's tools. He can smash blocks like his hands are wooden tools if he breaks 1,000 of them. He will be able to smash blocks like stone tools if he breaks 10,000 of them with his hands. He will be able to smash blocks like iron tools if he breaks 100,000 blocks with his hands. If he breaks 1 million bricks with his hand, he will be able to shatter blocks like diamond tools. He can smash blocks like he has netherite tools if he breaks 10 million blocks with his hands. It would take millions of blocks to finish, but it would probably make the game more enjoyable for the Hulk. It would only operate in single-player mode, so it wouldn't influence other players, it would simply be a mod for the Hulk. Maybe you'll have fun during the invasion tomorrow. Naruto thought to himself as he saw the Hulk destroy bricks and remembered the mutant zombie. It would be fascinating to see the fight between the two. When people heard about the Golden Apple, Minecraft sales went up again. Now, millions of people were joining the game not only for enjoyment, but to learn as much as they could about it so they could be as helpful as possible in combat. Naruto was happy to see the numbers when he woke up. Minecraft sold 4 million games for $80 million. Average play time, 6 hours. Peak concurrent players, 2,811,110. Total money made from selling servers, $320,143. Total VIPs, $9,510.275. Minecraft grew from having 200,000 players to 4 million players in less than 24 hours after the event began. Naruto knew that a lot more people knew about Minecraft than he did. He knew this because he opened Twitch and saw that millions of people were watching Minecraft. But Minecraft was still extremely mysterious. A lot of people were still scared of a game that used people's minds to control the characters. Not everyone will see a news story about it one day and buy the game to start playing right away, especially after seeing government warnings about the dangers of Minecraft. People didn't want to behave like lab rats for this new game, they wanted to wait and see what would happen. The golden fruit was very alluring, but their lives were much more so. Minecraft also said that the greatest players will still be able to win strength and lucky potions, so users still thought they would be able to gain valuable stuff in the future. Naruto had previously thought about this, and he was more gloomy than hopeful about it. Naruto thought that Minecraft would take at least 4 to 5 days after the event to achieve 10 million players. But after checking at the current statistics, he has already discovered that it may potentially exceed 10 million users today. It's very tiring to act like Herobrine. I think I can finish this attack today and start getting ready for the new game tomorrow. Naruto remarked to himself as he ate an English breakfast before going into Minecraft. People in Hypixel were already getting ready for Herobrine's next onslaught in Minecraft. The metropolis of Hypixel was quite huge, so even if approximately 3 million individuals were linked, there was still plenty of room for everyone. To squeeze in 3 million people, they had to spawn far apart from each other. If friends wanted to meet up, they had to transmit each other's location via the friends list and utilize jump points to get there quicker. Since the raid yesterday, the players' command center has grown a lot. Even if players wearing Ender Dragon capes wanted to have all the authority to make decisions, they recognized they couldn't accomplish it with an army of 3 million individuals. So there were a few divides. Others individuals were in charge of logistics, others were in charge of teaching new players, some were in charge of the combat itself, some were in charge of scouting to find out where the monsters would spawn, and some were in charge of communication, among many other things. Of course, many people who were soldiers wanted to be commanders so they could be more involved and have a better chance of getting the golden apple, but that wasn't possible because there would be more commanders than soldiers in that case. Thousands of others chose to disregard these gamers and establish their own army instead. They then enticed troops from the main army to join them by promising them a higher chance of capturing the golden apple. So the big army was split up into smaller ones. But even with these little armies forming, most new players still joined the main army. This was because it was the biggest army, had the best chance of winning the golden apple, and had the most people to educate new players what to do. Naruto didn't want to become involved in this. Naruto felt that he was witnessing chaos among these gamers, much as he saw players playing on anarchic servers like 2B2T in his recollections. Naruto considered that if Herobrine were to accept players into his faction, it is likely that a significant portion of those players would align with Herobrine, potentially leading to a substantial faction versus faction conflict. However, at this moment, Naruto has different intentions regarding Minecraft. Naruto aimed to transform Minecraft into a more tranquil experience rather than one focused on conflict and competition. To facilitate player competition, Naruto planned to present additional games focused on this area. Naruto's thoughts were occupied with various role-playing game concepts designed to intensify the player's eagerness for conflict. Unfortunately, he only possessed sufficient gaming points to create one game. In the future, I will accumulate a significant number of gaming points, enabling me to implement my ideas more efficiently. Naruto contemplated while he observed these players from an invisible vantage point. Ultimately, as Naruto navigated invisibly, he encountered something that astonished him. A quartet of players was engaged in a ritualistic gathering around a pentagram inscribed on the ground using discarded items. Question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark, single quote. Naruto experienced a state of confusion. However, as he approached, he found himself nearly overcome with laughter. Mr. Herobrine, we are your most devoted followers. We kindly request the opportunity to showcase our loyalty, as we are prepared to dedicate ourselves entirely to you. Mr. Herobrine, we are your most devoted followers. We respectfully request an opportunity to showcase our loyalty, as we are prepared to dedicate ourselves entirely to you. Mr. Herobrine, Mr. Herobrine. Observing this, Naruto displayed a playful smile and transitioned from Notch's account to Herobrine's account. Let us enhance the enjoyment of this experience. Naruto contemplated. The four players donned dark attire that suggested an affiliation with a sinister group, while the pentagram crafted from red items on the floor added an unsettling element to the scene. Nevertheless, Naruto sensed an opportunity for an engaging experience with these individuals. Naruto, embodying the Herobrine character, positioned himself at the center of the pentagram, causing the items to vanish. The disappearance of the pentagram led to player frustration. George, this approach is not effective. We have attempted to contact Herobrine for several hours without receiving any response. There have been 7 instances of missing items. A player remarked. It is essential to maintain our confidence. Following Notch, as many players do, will not provide us with the opportunity to obtain a golden apple. Our only viable path lies in following Herobrine. The player known as Jungle George responded with a sigh. We have sufficient items for 1 additional pentagram. If that does not yield results, I will reconsider my approach. Another player expressed frustration. Naruto remained unseen at the center of the area where the players formed the pentagram, observing their discussion intently. As the players began to discard the items onto the ground to form another pentagram, they observed that the items were being drawn toward a focal point at the center of the pentagram. The players, in a state of confusion, began to throw various items. However, it was only the red items that were being absorbed. How can I assist you today? Have we encountered an issue with the game? Unexpectedly, a pair of luminous eyes emerged, hovering between the 4 players. Upon observing those luminous eyes devoid of any physical forms, the players' hearts began to quiver uncontrollably. The players sought to invoke Herobrine as a method to align themselves with the opposing faction, similar to strategies employed in other games they had experienced. However, the sight of those glowing eyes fixed upon them instilled a sense of regret among the participants. In contrast to other games where participants observed events through a screen, this game provided an immersive experience, allowing them to witness everything in person. Reflecting on the chaos and destruction instigated by Herobrine during the recent battle, and recalling the newspaper's assertion that Minecraft appeared to foster a connection among players at a deeper level, a thought swiftly emerged in the minds of these individuals. He is going to take my soul. To exacerbate the situation for these players, a song played in the background. Have you encountered the Herobrine? Explore the world with the standard appearance. This song, performed by a female vocalist reminiscent of a church setting, left the players in a state of desperation. The 4 players promptly executed the mental command and logged out of Minecraft. Naruto observed the 4 players disconnecting and had to exercise restraint in refraining from disabling the option to exit the game. However, he understood that taking such action could result in significant negative publicity for Minecraft and potentially lead to a loss of players over time. I find that quite amusing. As the 4 players exited the game, Naruto found himself unable to contain his laughter. He merely directed his gaze towards the light and played the Herobrine theme song, yet that was sufficient to instill fear in those players. Creating a horror game would indeed be an enjoyable endeavor. Naruto contemplated with enthusiasm as he became invisible and made his way back to the Hypixel sky. The concluding confrontation is scheduled for today, allowing Naruto to commence the development of another game. Minecraft was experiencing rapid growth, and he recognized that it would soon establish itself as one of the largest games globally. Therefore, the additional focus he intended to provide to Minecraft would now be unwarranted. Naruto is expected to introduce updates and events in the future, contributing to the game's continued exponential growth. Members from different factions convened in Hypixel, as the moment for the decisive confrontation drew near. Experienced players expressed enthusiasm, whereas novice players exhibited apprehension. It was typical for individuals in a contemporary society to engage in a conflict of such extensive proportions, which was beyond comprehension. Only individuals with military experience could manage this situation with greater composure during their initial encounter. Despite the emergence of several armies, players adorned with the Ender Dragon cape remained united within the main force. The identity of the individual who would make the most significant contribution to the conflict was uncertain, yet all were demonstrating a strong willingness to be that person. Each individual is fully committed to achieving the ultimate goal, leading to the adoption of various effective strategies to enhance player capabilities. The monsters encountered today are expected to be significantly stronger, particularly the Ender Dragons soaring above the city, which may launch an attack. Consequently, players have meticulously developed techniques for every type of monster they have encountered, including the mutant zombie and mutant creeper. A distinct player emerged in a secluded location, setting themselves apart from the rest. This individual exhibited green skin and appeared to possess a notably youthful mental capacity. Upon arriving at Hypixel, this player immediately attempted to break city blocks. However, the presence of numerous indestructible blocks began to frustrate him. However, the player's frustration regarding the blocks was soon eclipsed upon observing the presence of other players. In contrast to the individual with green skin, these players exhibited a range of skin tones, including white, beige, brown, and black, variations that were familiar to the green-skinned player. However, he was taken aback when he encountered a player with blue skin. A player with red skin then emerged, and shortly thereafter, the green player observed numerous individuals with various skin tones resembling his own, which left the green player in a state of confusion. The green player is identified as Hulk, who was brought from single-player mode by Naruto to the Hypixel environment. Hulk initially believed that when others encountered him, they would react with anger or fear and attempt to harm him, as had been the case when he assumed control of Bruce. However, to his surprise, people merely glanced at him and then disregarded him, as if he were an ordinary individual in this setting. Unexpectedly, Hulk perceived a sound. "Hello Hulk, have you joined an army yet?" Hulk heard his name and felt a heightened sense of confusion as he observed the man clad in a black cape standing before him. Hulk was unable to read, which led to his confusion regarding the name P. Parker displayed above the other player. He was also puzzled about how this individual knew his name was Hulk. However, noticing that the person was engaging with him in a typical manner, Hulk made an effort to respond in a similar fashion. The Hulk lacks an understanding of what constitutes an army. He responded while thoughtfully scratching his head. P. Parker observed that the player known as Hulk might be experiencing some mental health challenges and felt a sense of duty to assist him. Consequently, P. Parker approached the situation with patience, treating Hulk with care and providing thorough explanations about Hypixel and the current circumstances occurring. This is a friendship that many would not have anticipated, yet due to Peter's compassionate nature and Hulk's innocence, it may significantly influence the course of the universe. The magnitude of the conflict exceeded Naruto's expectations. During the initial hours of the conflict, he exclusively deployed standard monsters, given the presence of numerous novice players. As time progressed, an increasing number of monsters emerged, and the armor of these creatures became increasingly formidable. Numerous players faced defeat at the hands of the monsters, having never encountered a battle of this magnitude. However, as time progressed, players adapted, and their proficiency in defeating the monsters improved significantly. Observing that the players had already acquired iron tools and armor, Naruto opted to implement the mutant mobs. At the outset, he exclusively utilized skeletons and mutant zombies. Upon encountering the mutant zombie, a player known as Hulk, distinguished by his green skin, became quite enthusiastic and attempted to engage the creature in combat. However, with a single punch, he met his demise. After some time, that player returned and successfully evaded the zombie's punch, but ultimately met their demise once more. Players started to take note of this player's tenacity, particularly in their encounters with the mutant zombie. Several players have observed the resemblance between the Hulk skin and the appearance of the mutant zombie. Naruto, who was overseeing all operations, accessed Twitch to assess the status of the war audience and was taken aback by what he found. Ned the King 3,543,132 viewers. P. Parker 3,213,765 viewers. Crawler 2,965,521 viewers. Minecraft total 21,655,321 viewers. Upon witnessing this, Naruto was taken aback. In the past, Minecraft had not surpassed 500,000 viewers, yet now, amidst the war, the total has surged to over 21 million. While searching for Minecraft on Google, Naruto discovered that several smaller television channels were broadcasting the war with live commentators. I must demonstrate respect. Do you notice the player beside Ned the King with the long blonde hair? The individual accompanying Nick from History is Power holds the position of Dean for the History course at Cambridge University, which is recognized as the leading institution globally for the study of history and philosophy. The strategies employed by the Dean to address the zombie situation are well-established methods that humanity has relied upon throughout countless historical battles. The young men beside the Dean appear taken aback by these tactics. However, for those well-versed in history, such occurrences are quite familiar. It is fascinating to observe the recreation of numerous renowned tactics from our history in contemporary times. This was a cultural television channel. Naruto would never have anticipated that Minecraft would be featured on a platform dedicated to conveying culture and knowledge to its audience. Ned's livestream concentrated on troop management, whereas Peter Parker's livestream highlighted the confrontation with the mutant zombie, specifically the clash between Hulk and the mutant zombie. Initially, viewers were critical of the player known as Hulk. However, over time, they recognized his significant improvement in combat skills and his increasing proficiency in handling zombie mutants. The spectators who had initially mocked Hulk began to support him, eager to see him demonstrate his ability to confront the mutant zombie independently. Some players were observing the livestreams on small floating screens while they engaged in gameplay, a feature recently introduced by Naruto. Among the players was an individual named Nick from Dr. Banner. This player initially sought to engage directly on the front lines to gain first-hand experience. However, upon realizing his limitations in motor coordination, which hindered his ability to sustain combat without risking his life, Banner opted to contribute to the war effort through logistics. His employer at the factory in Brazil had granted all employees time off in light of the conflict, and the workforce welcomed this opportunity with enthusiasm. As Dr. Banner was involved in logistics, he had more free time compared to the frontline players, allowing him to watch some live streams while he played. Initially, he was engaged with Ned the King's livestream. However, after finding the strategies uninteresting, he decided to switch to P. Parker's livestream. What surprised him was that during P. Parker's livestream, there was a player who was clearly facing significant challenges. Viewers inundated the chat with messages fervently encouraging that player, regarding him as a true warrior. However, Banner perceived that the player was quite recognizable. The individual with green skin, lacking a shirt, armor, or weapons, engaged in combat using only his fists while shouting, was quite recognizable to Dr. Banner. However, due to the distance from P. Parker, he was unable to discern his name clearly. Upon reviewing the messages in the chat, Banner became momentarily immobilized. Hulk, you have the capability to achieve this. Hulk is my representative. I would like the opportunity to engage in a contest with the Hulk. A multitude of supportive comments were typical, yet the name that garnered such praise left dry. Banner astonished. The player's name is Hulk. Bruce raised his voice, uncertain of how to articulate his thoughts. A variety of thoughts crossed his mind simultaneously, particularly the anger issues he experienced prior to playing Minecraft, which unexpectedly vanished after his initial session. At first, Bruce considered it merely a coincidence. However, over time, he sensed that the Hulk had vanished. At that moment, witnessing Hulk engage in battle with a mutant zombie resembling himself, Bruce Banner experienced a profound sense of clarity and fulfillment. Are you suggesting that Hulk has been engaged in playing Minecraft since that period? Is he still well regarded by others? Bruce Banner remained in a state of disbelief. In the real world, Hulk was perceived as a monster, instilling fear in those around him. However, in Minecraft, he was regarded as a hero. After careful consideration, Bruce Banner made the decision to explore a new approach. Bruce accessed the friends list and entered a name in the search field. Hulk. Shortly, 3 results were generated. Hulk 1st fan, I love Hulk. Bruce was taken aback by the nicknames of the other 2 players, but he quickly set them aside and proceeded to send a friend request to Hulk. Should that individual truly be Hulk, Bruce believed it was essential to engage in a face-to-face discussion with that player. A message soon emerged. Your friend request has been declined by Hulk. I appreciate your input and would like to discuss this further. Bruce. As the hours of combat progressed, numerous players grew fatigued and needed to cease their participation, while those who had recently logged in assumed their positions. Throughout the battle, the influx of novice players increased significantly. Minecraft 7,900,000 games sold, resulting in a total revenue of $158 million. Naruto recognized that Minecraft had reached a level of widespread popularity that was difficult to manage. Despite government assertions across the globe regarding the potential influence of the game on players' minds, millions continued to purchase it. The shift in interest was not due to a lack of fear, but rather because individuals observed their peers engaging with Minecraft. Witnessing friends enjoy this innovative game while remaining mere spectators led to a sense of frustration among those who had yet to join in. To avoid merely observing friends engage in gameplay, individuals began purchasing Minecraft to participate themselves, creating a growing trend. This momentum reached a point where even Naruto, who had projected Minecraft sales to reach 10 million by the conclusion of the war, found that estimate to be quite conservative. Throughout the conflict, Notch and Herobrine manifested in the sky and engaged in multiple confrontations. Due to the golden apple, Notch was able to regain his strength. However, Herobrine proved to be even more formidable, resulting in Notch's defeat in the majority of their encounters. As players continued to endure, Herobrine escalated his tactics by unleashing progressively formidable monsters, culminating in the release of the Wither boss. The players had not encountered this 3-headed skeleton previously. They were already aware that the white skeleton in the Nether dropped its head, but they were not informed that it was possible to create a monster with 3 heads. A number of players expressed a desire to return to single-player mode to experiment and determine if they could replicate this formidable creature. However, as the challenge intensified with the introduction of this boss, many players abandoned that notion and opted to use bows to confront the monster instead. The Wither boss was launching explosive attacks at players, resulting in numerous initial casualties. However, as time progressed, the more adaptable players managed to strategize effectively and ultimately defeat the Wither boss. Regrettably, upon White's passing, Herobrine became enraged and unleashed the 2 ender dragons that were soaring above the city. As the 2 dragons descended from the lofty skies to engage in battle, players found themselves in a state of urgency, particularly those who had never encountered the Ender Dragon before. The sight of dragons soaring through the city and wreaking havoc on the structures they encountered left the players increasingly despondent. The players' command line began to exhibit signs of disorder, leading to a breakdown in operations. Until players adorned with the Ender Dragon cape, who previously led the army, entered the fray. Team 01, comprising the X-Men, along with Ned, Peter, Shuri, and the Melage, advanced towards the dragons, engaging the monsters while guiding the players to the front lines. Conversely, 2 players were positioned on the rooftop of a high-rise structure in Hypixel. Natalia and Hawk, more commonly recognized as Natasha Romanoff and Clint Barton, both of whom serve as agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Under the direct instructions of Nick Fury, the two were tasked with acquiring the Golden Apple at any cost. Consequently, while collaborating with the players, Clint and Natasha devised a strategic plan to address the dragons. Recognizing their limitations in confronting the lesser monsters alone, they resolved to make a final attempt to eliminate the two dragons. Natasha would safeguard Clint as he concentrated on targeting the dragons with his arrows to secure the kill. This was a strategy they discovered online. Given that this was their initial experience with a mission related to games, the two opted to conduct online research for strategies from other games to determine which would be the most effective for their use. It has been widely stated online that the individual who delivers the final blow to the boss stands to gain significantly greater rewards compared to other players. Given Herobrine's godlike status in this realm, Clint and Natasha chose to overlook him as a boss and directed their focus towards the dragons that had been soaring over Hypixel since the previous day. The existence of the first dragon is diminishing, Clint remarked as he withdrew the arrow from his bow. Natasha, in contrast, was engaged in combat against the fireballs launched by the ghasts, wielding a sword with determination. The players, positioned at the pinnacle of Hypixel, drew the full attention of the ghasts, the formidable monsters that soared at great heights. Natasha remained silent towards Clint, maintaining her concentration as she skillfully engaged the fireballs with her sword. If she failed to time the fireball counterattack correctly, it would detonate, propelling both of them downward. Even if they survived the explosion, they would probably succumb to the fall damage, as they lacked a bucket of water for MLG techniques. Clint did not require a response from Natasha. Their deep understanding of one another allowed him to recognize that her silence affirmed the trust she placed in him. Given that archery in Minecraft proved to be more straightforward than in reality, Clint assessed the quantity of arrows in flight and the potential damage they would inflict on the Ender Dragon before taking his shot. Swoosh! The Ender Dragon's health was declining rapidly due to the barrage of arrows from the players. However, as a Herobrine monster, its health was significantly greater than that of a typical Ender Dragon. However, due to the relentless barrage of arrows, the monster ultimately succumbed. The players expressed enthusiasm and directed their efforts towards the remaining dragon. Countless players had already fallen to these dragons, yet determination remained unwavering. The pursuit of the Golden Apple continued for all. After several minutes of engagement, the dragon's health reached a critical threshold. Clint meticulously calculated his shot before releasing the arrow, observing as it successfully struck down the second dragon. Following the defeat of the dragons, players equipped with bows aimed their arrows at Herobrine and commenced firing. Herobrine observed the demise of his most formidable monsters and expressed his fury with a loud scream. Unpleasant pests, do not assume you have triumphed in this conflict, as it is far from concluded. Herobrine let out a loud scream before swiftly retreating and vanishing before the eyes of all present. This caught players off guard. We won. They began to wonder, until Notch soared downtown and yelled, "We won!" The players were fatigued after battling for over 4 hours straight. During the conflict, several players received tiredness messages and were advised to leave the game for at least 20 minutes before returning. When players got these messages, they were initially irritated with the game for almost throwing them out of the fun, but when they came out and saw how sweaty they were in real life, they were pleased that Minecraft was considering their well-being. While other games simply wanted players to spend as much time online as possible, Minecraft proved that it would prefer for players to stay healthy rather than spend several hours online. When Herobrine vanished, the players noticed Notch soaring towards Hypixel's main square and followed behind, curious as to who would earn the Golden Apple. Notch smiled as he watched the players approach the square. As large as the area was, it would be impossible to accommodate millions of players at once, so the players began climbing the buildings around the city to have the greatest perspective of the city. Notch, and also so that Notch might see them and increase their chances of winning the apple. The participants were quite boisterous as they discussed who would have contributed the most. Some thought the players led, some thought the players fought on the front lines, and some even thought the logistical workers contributed the most. When most of the players approached Notch, he raised his hand, and the players became silent. First and foremost, citizens of Hypixel, I would want to express my gratitude to everyone who participated in this war. Unfortunately, I am unable to provide each of you with a present as valuable as the golden apple, but please know that if I could, I would gladly offer you one. Notch started by thanking the players. As I can't give a golden apple, I'll give you another gift, so that at least in Hypixel you will be recognized as the brave warriors who risked their own lives to protect the city. This cape will be given for free to everyone who participated in the battle of yesterday and today. Notch spoke as he extended his hand, and a white cape with a large golden H emerged in front of all the players. This H can be viewed as a hero or a Hypixel. When players saw the white cloak emerge in front of Notch, they received a request. Are you willing to accept the Hypixel Hero Cape? This cape is limited. This inquiry was simply a formality. As soon as this message displayed, all players accepted the cape and began equipping it. In an instant, Notch's perspective as he flew revealed that players who had previously worn a variety of colors were now more uniform, with almost everyone donning this white cloak. Although this white cape is more attractive than standard capes, the fact that all players received it was not unusual. But the most astute players realized that after a few years, when Minecraft had hundreds of millions of users, only they would wear this cape, demonstrating how rare it was. Finally, the last gift will be given to the player who contributed the most to today's battle. First, I'll ask him, do you want your name revealed to the other players? Notch asked. At that point, a floating screen emerged in front of Clint. As the other players fiddled with the game's menu to adjust the cape, Clint feigned to change it and refused. Notch saw Clint's remark and continued. Unfortunately, the player refused to have his identity revealed, but know that this player was the one who killed the most monsters in this battle, in addition to getting the elimination in both Ender Dragons. The players were astonished to hear this. In the following few minutes, Notch simply thanked the players and said that the Hypixel will go into maintenance for 24 hours to repair what had been destroyed during the conflict. Minecraft would continue to function normally, but Hypixel would be unavailable for a day. Of course, Notch promised some exciting news following the upgrade. Hearing this, the players were frustrated, but after so many hours of combat, they were not eager to play the server minigames and simply wanted to disconnect to relax. Clint and Natasha logged out of Minecraft as the other players did, but instead of playing at their house, they were in a special area built up by S.H.I.E.L.D. When the war at Hypixel began, hundreds of operatives were dispatched to join, primarily to gather additional intelligence. While Natasha returned to the real world exactly as she had signed into the game, Clint was holding something different. A golden apple lay between his fingers, just as he had seen in Notch's hand. Clint had to fight the impulse to take a piece of that apple and confirm that it had the effects Notch had described, but he refrained and stood up with Natasha to walk to Nick Fury's office. Nick had assigned this assignment to the two of them. Collect this golden apple so that S.H.I.E.L.D. experts could examine it and determine if the effects were real, and if the effects were verified, see if these apples could be mass-produced. Even though this apple's impact of doubling the user's power was not as effective as the Super Soldier Serum, it was still far superior to having nothing. And having an army of 1,000 agents, doubled in strength by apples, would be a formidable force in any country. Naruto knew who had received the golden apple: Clint Barton, or Hawkeye, a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. And he wasn't too concerned about what S.H.I.E.L.D. was going to do with the apple because System had confirmed that anything created by System could not be copied, only utilized as inspiration. In a world where Super Soldier Serum already exists, these people have plenty of inspiration. As S.H.I.E.L.D. worked furiously and Minecraft users finally relaxed, Naruto began to dig into Minecraft sales. Minecraft 19,200,000 games sold equals $384 million, average time played, 6 hours. Peak concurrent players, 14,051,165. Total earnings from sold servers, $1,120,143. Total earned from VIPs, $61,510,275. Naruto had a broad smile on his face. I'm rich. He shrieked happily and bounced in the same area. With a fast mental calculation, Naruto saw that he already had 1.92 million gaming points from Minecraft sales alone, and with VIPs, this total jumps to more than 2 million. With this amount of GP I can finally make a AAA game without worrying about the quality. I can even add several features that didn't exist in the original games to surprise the audience even more. Naruto said as he considered the possibilities. However, I will require a significant amount of time to create a game as fantastic as I envision it. Even with the system's assistance in expediting the process, implementing more useful and new items for consumers will necessitate extensive research and testing. Naruto realized it would not be so simple. His ambition was to create an open-world MMORPG game. Not simply a game, but a universe so full that gamers may regard it as if it were their second life. Naruto was motivated primarily by something he saw a few days prior. Time dilation. 10% equals 1 million GP. Naruto was initially perplexed to discover this function, but as he read the description, he was astounded. 10% time dilation means that 100 minutes pass in the real world while 110 minutes pass in the game. That is 10% extra time. If he purchased 1000% time dilation, 1 hour in the actual world would equal 10 hours in the gaming world. If a player played 12 hours each day while sleeping, the game would take 5 entire days. This would practically amplify people's lifespan on Earth, giving them 132 hours per day. Even if the user was not interested in the game, they would want to visit the environment to study, rest, or engage in other activities. For someone who had to work every day, this would be the equivalent of working 1 day and resting for 5 days in the game, a perfect existence for everyone. Naruto was really thrilled about this idea. Of course, he didn't have enough money for a 1000% time dilation. At most, he could start with 10 or 20% because time dilation was quite expensive. Nevertheless, he was convinced that in the future, he would be able to expand that time dilation and virtually offer gamers with endless life. For the time being, I need to study this game more thoroughly, but now that Minecraft has hit a peak in sales, I can devote some of my free time to developing a simpler game. After all, since Minecraft is already self-sufficient, I may use these GP to invest in another game that would earn me more money. Naruto spoke thoughtfully. The MMORPG plan was very ambitious. He wouldn't be able to complete it in a few days, so Naruto launched the game development software and began working on the next game. Naruto noticed that many players enjoyed Hunger Games on Hypixel, but because the chests were always in the same position and the only thing players could do was grab chests and hit each other, the graphics indicated that this was the first minigame that 90% of Hypixel players played when they joined the server, but 70% of those players stopped playing after 3 rounds. Naruto reasoned from this data that the Battle Royale mode was a popular notion among gamers, but because Hunger Games lacked diversity, people became dissatisfied and stopped playing after several rounds. With this demand for Battle Royale, I have some game options I can make to supply these people. Naruto spoke with his hand on his chin. According to the information he gathered, 4 games dominated this mode. The first game was Fortnite, which was extremely popular in first world nations due to its high graphics and the requirement for a powerful computer to construct quickly. Fortnite's buildings are a huge differentiator of the game and bring a lot to the variety of gameplay, since they are something that players must understand in order to become more competitive. The second game was PUBG, which was well known among individuals who struggled with constructing, as well as having more realistic physics for shots and characters, giving the game a more serious tone for the players. The third game was Apex Legends, which differed significantly in that each character had various skills, making the gameplay unique. Finally, there is Free Fire, a Chinese game for cell phones with poor graphics that was extremely popular in developing nations where the populace lacked the funds to purchase sophisticated computers to play other games. Looking at the 4 options, Naruto knew exactly what game he would create for this world. After all, despite the limits players had in his recollections of the current world, there was only one game that delivered exactly what Naruto desired. His players have feelings. With a Battle Royale game, I can earn money by selling skins and Battle Pass. This can even be more profitable than Minecraft. Naruto chuckled at the prospect of how much money people would spend on the game he was creating. Naruto wasted little time in beginning production on the game he intended to create. Unlike when he was creating Minecraft, Naruto didn't have to worry about not having enough GP. When Naruto created Minecraft, he only had enough GP to include some shaders and other basic settings, but as the game's sales increased, he added more features until Minecraft reached its current state. But this time would be different. Naruto was not going to spend all of his GP on this game, at least not all at once. Battle Royale Basic 2000 gaming points, Advanced Battle Royale 20,000 gaming points, Battle Royale AAA 200,000 gaming points. Without hesitation, Naruto chose a Battle Royale AAA for 200,000 gaming points. When he spent that money, several new features in the game production package became available to him. Weapons, jackets, helmets, scenery components, and numerous more items appeared for Naruto. Naruto's background in game production made it much easier for him to begin building this new game. He first started working on the game's map. Naruto was aware that the map contained landmarks such as a school, a few tiny towns spread about, a chair, a factory, forests, rivers, and many other things. Because the game was designed to be played in virtual reality rather than on a computer screen, Naruto had to raise the scale of the map to make everything more realistic, but he didn't increase it significantly so that the game's time would not be extended. Very huge. Naruto thought the notion of bringing players in via a flying school bus was incredibly unique and chose to use it. So Naruto concentrated on the game development and didn't realize how much time had passed in real life. Naruto returned to reality with a happy smile, even though his stomach was immediately begging for food. Okay, even though the game is not yet finished, I can already start promoting it to attract players who are interested in playing, Naruto stated as he began to plan how he would create an appealing video. Ha ha ha, he's going to be pissed when he finds out about this, but it's going to be really funny. Naruto came up with a brilliant concept to draw both the Minecraft audience to the new game and a new audience. In a magnificent Malibu mansion, a man was working with mechanical components while listening to classic rock music. This man worked with these components with great ability, as if he'd been doing it for years. The man suddenly remembered something and spoke aloud to the void. "Jarvis, tell me, what did you find out about Minecraft?" Then a voice emerged from the speakers where the music was being played. "Unfortunately, I couldn't crack the Minecraft source code, Mr. Stark, not even their website could be hacked." Hearing this, the man finally stopped what he was doing and asked again. "What's the latest Minecraft news?" According to reports around the world, the amount of people paying to play Minecraft is growing exponentially. It is estimated that in the near future the game could reach a volume of at least $1 billion in sales. Jarvis returned the compliment. When Tony Stark heard this, he raised his eyebrow in surprise. He never dreamed that a game firm could develop so quickly, especially with technology that Jarvis couldn't understand. Doesn't that imply that this game company's technology is superior to that of Stark Industries? "Jarvis, what's the name of the company that produced Minecraft?" Tony asked him. Jarvis responded, "The company is called Mojang, Mr. Stark." When Tony heard the firm name, he thought aloud. "Mojang, if I'm not mistaken this is Swedish. What does Mojang Jarvis mean?" "Mojang means gadget in English, Mr. Stark." "Is the company Swedish?" Tony inquired. "The location of the company has not yet been confirmed." After hearing these insights, Tony could think of no other way to learn more about this firm with technology as mysterious as Minecraft's but to play the game. "Jarvis, buy me Minecraft, I plan to test this game to see how it works." Tony asked for it. "Mr. Stark, I think it might be more interesting for you to play something other than Minecraft." Jarvis was persuaded. Tony expressed his confusion by asking, "Because?" Jarvis explained, "Maybe you're interested in the trailer for their next game." Before Tony could raise another question, a trailer showed on the garage's big screen. In the trailer, a movie began playing. Tony was taken aback by the film's image quality. Not even movie cameras could capture such a high-quality image. Tony was astonished to see the little text in the corner of the screen. "This is actual gameplay footage. Is this a gaming graphic rather than a movie with actual people? Not even Minecraft has such stunning visuals. Is this Mojang's next game? Tony wondered himself as he continued to watch. In the teaser, a group of 4 persons emerged from a shed, with the camera focused on their back. A woman in a hoodie, a woman in a pink teddy bear costume, a retro blue robot, and a man with a banana head dressed in a fashionable suit. As the light outside the shelter became brighter, each of the 4 held a heavy weapon. Until they exited the shed, they could see a figure soaring in front of them, wearing red and gold armor with a glowing chest and eyes. Tony Stark. Tony Stark noticed the red and gold armor flying across the game screen and had to peek to the side to be sure. He calmed when he saw the Mark III armor safely stowed away, but then he noticed that the armor in the game's promo film looked exactly like his. Tony Stark said angrily, "Shit, who gave this Mojang the rights to wear my armor? And since when did I become a villain? The Mojang company never bought the rights to use your armor in the game, Mr. Stark," Jarvis said respectfully, ignoring Tony's demeanor. Tony was infuriated. He'd heard that some street sellers were selling copied Iron Man products without paying him royalties, but he never dreamed that anyone would be daring enough to wear his armor in a free game. Worst of all, the game's developers did not even announce that they would utilize his armor in the game. Instead, they simply used it and posted it. Tony took out his mobile phone and called Pepper Potts right away. All he wanted was for the Stark Industries legal team to discover the person responsible for Mojang and prosecute them for exploiting the Iron Man armor image without permission. But, of course, Tony's duty would be impossible because the Mojang Corporation did not even have a headquarters in this world, let alone someone in charge of a legal aspect that could lead to a lawsuit. Naruto was practically in a cave, a location where not even the Supreme Sorcerer could find him after a short search, a place where neither Heimdall nor Odin could see with their magical eyes, let alone regular humans, could find him to send any kind of assistance. While Tony Stark was outraged that Mojang would so openly mimic his armor in this game, players all across the world were taken aback. Most people had just recently discovered Minecraft and were still in awe of how fantastic the game was, and how miraculous the technology was to be able to see distant friends and relatives in this other world, when a floating screen appeared before them. There. Notch asks you to view a trailer for a game he created. At this point, the name Notch was as well known as Minecraft, and in some places, Notch may even be more well known than Minecraft. As Minecraft gained popularity, small vendors began developing simple plush or plastic Notch and Herobrine toys, and many children enjoyed playing Minecraft at school with their dolls. Unfortunately, System did not yet have the option of selling toys to boost profits. However, Naruto had already planned to do so when he visited Earth in the future. But, with so many retailers selling Minecraft toys, the names Notch and Herobrine were already well known around the world, so when gamers saw that the renowned Notch sent them a request, many didn't even read it and accepted. People who weren't in Minecraft had to watch the trailer on YouTube, but those who were in the game got a different experience. Ned was now online, with over 100,000 viewers watching him play Skyblock. Because most people hadn't yet killed the Ender Dragon, they enjoyed watching Ned play Skyblock and learning from him as he grew stronger. Skyblock's evolution was far more addictive than that of standard Minecraft, as players could enhance anything from the size of the island to how much money they could make by planting and selling items on the island, as well as how fast they could go. They broke blocks to earn additional money. Everything could be enhanced, and those who played became utterly glued to this mode. A message displayed on Ned's screen, shocking both him and the people who had followed him. Notch asks you to view a trailer for a game he has created. Notch has developed a new game, Ned said as he read the notification. Damn, I haven't even played Minecraft, and Notch has ever released another game. Is this new game set on another world, like Minecraft? Closing square bracket. I don't think so. It must have been really difficult to create Minecraft this way. Creating another game like Minecraft would most likely take more than 10 years. Perhaps it is another Minecraft-like game. After all, no one knows how Notch created Minecraft. It's possible he is a deity who creates universes. Viewers' reactions were divided into 2 groups. Those who thought the new game was similar to Minecraft, as if it were another universe, and those who thought it was just another computer game. Ned, one of Notch's most devoted followers, didn't hesitate to go over to check the trailer Notch had published. When he verified that he wanted to see the trailer, Ned, who was on his skyblock island, suddenly felt his eyesight go black. Everything around him evaporated, and he couldn't see anything. A sound came from in front of him, and a garage door opened from the bottom upward. As the door began to open, the light outside began to shine in, and Ned noticed 4 people in front of him. From left to right, there was a blue robot, a man in a suit with a banana head, a woman dressed as a pink teddy bear, and a girl with a sweatshirt over her head. The 4 people were clutching firearms, which startled Ned because he had never seen a gun before. But then he felt a weight in his palm and realized he was also holding a machine gun. When the garage door eventually opened, a figure in red and gold armor flew in front of him. The 4 individuals in front of Ned directed their rifles at the flying man in the armor, who aimed his glowing hands at them as if to fire an energy beam. Ned likewise subconsciously leveled his gun toward the armored man before his vision faded and he returned to his skyblock island. Both Ned and his livestream chat were stunned. They were used to Minecraft, which, despite having creatures, remained a medieval-themed sword game, but going into a shooter made Ned's blood boil and his legs weak. Finally, the chat reacted. Damn, that was Iron Man. Did Ned want to kill Iron Man? Was Iron Man planning to assassinate Ned and his teammates? What the hell sort of fantastic game is that? At this point, there were around 8 million Minecraft players online, with at least 6 million watching the trailer. Given the number of people watching live streams of Minecraft players, at least 10 million individuals saw the trailer for this new game within the first minute of its release. The video Naruto released for players to watch was linked to a YouTube URL, so the Fortnite trailer received 10 million views in less than 1 minute. The following minute, a bomb exploded on the internet. A new game from Minecraft's creator. The Fortnite trailer premiered and received over 10 million views in only 1 minute. The trailer was less than 60 seconds long, but as most people watched the entire video, YouTube's algorithm began to heavily push it, resulting in the video reaching 70 million views in 30 minutes. People who were previously unaware of Minecraft became aware of the game as a result of the Fortnite trailer, and Minecraft sales, which were already rising, have now taken off permanently. Every minute, hundreds of thousands of copies of Minecraft were sold, and millions of new users downloaded the unusual game and began to explore this new universe in an attempt to grasp why it was so popular. This revolutionary technology finally breached the bubble shield attempted to construct, and it became widely recognized. Shit, order YouTube to delete this video now. Nick Fury yelled in rage, but Maria Hill knew it wouldn't help. Tony Stark was irritated when Pepper Potts stated that Stark Industries lawyers were unable to find anything relating to Mojang, Minecraft, or Fortnite. While those folks had a variety of reactions, old Minecraft enthusiasts were ecstatic at the launch of this new game. The Fortnite trailer could be played several times, so many users began watching it in Minecraft's virtual reality to experience what it's like to handle a gun. Most people were terrified when they saw Iron Man brandishing laser weapons at them, but their reaction was unsurpassed. This is incredible. As a gun collector, I can confidently state that the gun we hold in the Fortnite trailer is a Colt Model 933. I don't mean that it's based on a Colt Model 933, but rather that it's a flawless replica. Both the weight and the temperature were excellent. If you're a gun enthusiast like myself, you can test and confirm my argument. Shortly after the trailer was released, multiple people began filming videos on various issues relating to the clip. These dedicated gamers have researched the weapons, Iron Man's armor, the environment, and even the background music. And as those gamers were spreading Minecraft even wider, Naruto sat at home, watching the consequences of that trailer with a great smile. Okay, the result is as good as I imagined. As most players are still discovering and getting to know Minecraft, I don't need to rush to launch Fortnite right away. Ideally, I release a few more teasers and develop a satisfying battle pass, plus some cool skins to make the game's launch event really good. Naruto continued to analyze the data as he planned. The Fortnite trailer received 400 million views in the first 24 hours, whereas Minecraft, which had around 20 million units sold when the trailer was released, increased its sales to 40 million after the shield bubble burst. Naruto was seeing his gaming points increase at an alarming rate. Despite having already spent 500k gaming points on Fortnite development, Naruto was surprised to see how many gaming points he had. 4.200000 gaming points. Naruto was worried when he saw the number, 4 million. A few months ago, he was a poor guy who had to eat cup noodles to survive without spending too many gaming points. Now he has 4 million. I know that 4 million isn't even a drop in the bucket to develop the metaverse I want in the future, but with so many extra points, I can refine Fortnite to a quality I couldn't even imagine. Naruto interrupted. What will it cost to do something like a virtual hub for my games? Naruto had this concept after remembering a movie called Ready Player One, in which players visited another planet and could teleport to other worlds, similar to a virtual hub. Naruto had the notion of making people's social contact available through the hub, similar to how Steam made the hub available for Steam VR, where the player entered a virtual house to choose which game to play, while leaving everything online. When this concept originally came up, Naruto immediately looked into how much it would cost to develop it. After completing the simulation, Naruto was surprised to see a fee of 10 million gaming points. This was not for the development of the hub, but for integrating other games into it. Okay, maybe I'm not as rich as I thought, but thinking about the speed I'm earning gaming points, it won't be impossible in the future, even more so when I have two games generating gaming points simultaneously. Naruto was thrilled by the prospect. When Naruto realized he had so many gaming points, he returned to Fortnite development, but with a much more wasteful perspective. Previously, Naruto picked slightly simpler shaders to save money, but now he has made a variety of shaders available for players to choose how they want to see the game. In terms of the Battle Pass, Naruto thought it would be fascinating to use his favorite Battle Pass from Fortnite in his previous life, the Chapter 2 Season 2 Battle Pass, with Midas as the level 100 skin. The most intriguing aspect of this skin is that Midas has golden fingers, which means that any weapon that this skin carries is golden, and even if Midas throws the weapon away, the weapon remains golden for other players to steal, which was a very clever implementation. After finishing what he needed to grow for the day, Naruto noticed that he still had over 4 million gaming points and decided to check out the skills shop again, hoping to find some power or something else to buy, as he now felt more confident than going to a human city. Naruto accessed the system store and returned to looking at the items he could purchase with gaming points. Game Shop. Dominic Toretto's driving skills, 3,000 gaming points. Elven Breath, 5,000 gaming points. Deadshot Weapon Mastery, 10,000 gaming points. Grey Fullbuster Ice Magic, 100,000 gaming points. Megaman Fire Magic, 500,000 gaming points. Natsu Dragneel Dragon Slayer Fire Magic, 1 million gaming points. He had seen those skills before. Naruto was pleased to see that Natsu Dragneel's skill had once seemed so expensive to him, but now he could buy 4 without blinking an eye. He had no intention of purchasing this skill, despite the intriguing nature of Dragon Slayer Fire Magic. Naruto was considering acquiring something more understated initially. As this would mark his inaugural visit to the human realms since his arrival, Naruto planned to acquire some subtle enhancements and an item that could assist him in managing any unforeseen circumstances. Naruto had a specific idea in mind regarding the object. Autobot Bumblebee 700,000 gaming points. Naruto's eyes gleamed as he considered that option. Bumblebee was ideally suited to provide Naruto with the necessary protection in the human world. His car form was remarkably discreet, resembling a standard sports car, while still being equipped to utilize weapons in this mode, maintaining the appearance of a technologically enhanced vehicle. In critical situations, Bumblebee could seamlessly transform into his robot form, featuring a plasma cannon on his wrist capable of significant destruction. Alongside Bumblebee, to ensure safety while maintaining discretion, Naruto also acquired Dominic Toretto driving skills, 3,000 gaming points. Deadshot Weapon Mastery, 10,000 gaming points. Block G19 1,000 gaming points, and Ammo .9 mm by 60 to 200 gaming points. Utilizing Toretto's exceptional driving abilities, Naruto realized he had the ability to maneuver a car in ways he had never imagined before. Equipped with Deadshot weapon mastery and the Glock pistol, Naruto confidently engaged with ordinary humans, ensuring precision in every shot. This approach allowed him to neutralize threats without resorting to lethal force unless absolutely necessary, thereby minimizing the attention he would draw in the world. At this point, I require a means of safeguarding myself against mental challenges. Naruto contemplated as he examined the offerings available in the system's store. Snape's Occlumency Magic 150,000 gaming points. Excellent. Naruto contemplated with enthusiasm. With this magic, he could construct mental barriers capable of thwarting both mental assaults and those attempting to invade his thoughts. Considering the numerous Harry Potter spells available, Naruto contemplated the purchase of additional spells, as they were more affordable compared to Occlumency. Alohomora spell 8,000 gaming points. Wingardium Leviosa spell 10,000 gaming points. Apisci spell 14,000 gaming points. Accio spell 20,000 gaming points. Apparate spell 100,000 gaming points. Magic Wand 500,000 gaming points. Wandless Magic Proficiency 1 million gaming points. That seems somewhat expensive, doesn't it? Naruto remarked with a somewhat serious demeanor. With Bumblebee, Occlumency, and weapon skills, Naruto had utilized nearly 900,000 gaming points. If he were to acquire additional spells, he would favor Wandless Magic, as it would prove more advantageous in the long term. Therefore, he should consider increasing his expenditure to at least 2 million gaming points when incorporating the other spells. I believe I can afford to postpone acquiring additional spells for the time being. Naruto agreed, but established a goal of mastering at least the primary spells from Harry Potter, as they would prove to be quite beneficial. He recognized that an additional purchase would be necessary for this matter. Harry's magic power 500,000 gaming points. Voldemort's magic power 1 million gaming points. Dumbledore's magical power 3 million gaming points. That is considerably more costly. Naruto's expression deepened with concern, as he realized that he lacked magic power within himself, and that the exorbitant cost set by Dumbledore did not guarantee that he would possess the same level of power as Dumbledore, rather that he would possess an equivalent amount of mana as Dumbledore. Understood. I will focus on one matter at a time. I am content with my purchasing decision. Naruto acknowledged and initiated Snape's Occlumency. Before long, he experienced a surge of knowledge regarding the construction of a mental shield, insights drawn from Snape's expertise in creating his own, as well as strategies for defending such a shield. Naruto expressed considerable enthusiasm regarding this matter, as it was understood that Occlumency depended on the caster's creativity to generate a highly secure shield. That resembles a tower defense game. Naruto felt a surge of enthusiasm as an idea crossed his mind. Rather than constructing a simple barrier for defense, I can implement a strategy akin to Fortnite Save the World by creating an extensive route for the opponent. This route will be laden with traps, ensuring that although it appears accessible, it becomes exceedingly difficult for them to navigate after enduring numerous assaults. This approach would allow me to anticipate the enemy's movements and focus my efforts in a single area. Additionally, if the enemy possesses greater strength, their attempts to invade my mind would be less damaging, as the theoretical path would be accessible. Naruto felt a surge of enthusiasm as he began his construction project. Even with Snape's expertise, Naruto required 30 hours to finish the defense. The project has been successfully completed. Naruto felt somewhat fatigued due to a lack of sleep, but he quickly revitalized his energy by purchasing a Shokugeki no Soma dish. In the past 30 hours, Minecraft has sold an additional 5 million copies, resulting in an accumulation of 500,000 gaming points. While this amount does not fully cover the expenditures incurred, Naruto anticipated that sales would stabilize for a period until another significant event occurs. While other companies might celebrate achieving low sales of 5 million units in a single day, Naruto regarded this performance as standard. With a Glock concealed in his belt, Naruto exited his cabin and proceeded to finalize the acquisition of Bumblebee, which remained unconfirmed at that time. Upon utilizing the 700,000 gaming points, along with the subtle illumination that emerged with the purchase of the Glock. A significantly brighter light manifested in front of his residence. After a brief moment, the light diminished, revealing a large yellow robot positioned before Naruto. Although standing at 5 meters, the imposing robot featured round, glowing blue eyes that regarded Naruto with curiosity, significantly diminishing the sense of intimidation it might otherwise evoke. "Hello B, my name is Naruto." Naruto presented himself with a confident smile. The yellow robot elevated its robotic eyebrows before gesturing with its hand and preparing to respond, yet no sound emerged from its mouth, leaving the larger robot feeling embarrassed. Naruto recalled that Bumblebee's communication system was malfunctioning, and given that his cabin lacked radio signal access, effective communication proved to be challenging. He promptly accessed the system and noted that the repair of B's communication system required only 20,000 gaming points, which Naruto approved without hesitation. Bumblebee observed a golden light emerging unexpectedly, and a transformation began to take place within him. Naruto offered a smile once again and remarked, "We can now proceed with our discussion." B regarded Naruto and made another attempt to communicate. "Hello." Upon hearing his own voice, Bumblebee became enthusiastic and proceeded further. "Hello, I am Bumblebee. Thank you for resolving the issues with my communication system." Naruto approached B and shook his head in disapproval. "There's no need for gratitude. Bringing you here was simply the least I could do for you." B surveyed the surroundings with a look of confusion and inquired, "What is the location referred to as here? I am unable to find this location using my tracker. I consider this to be the most secure location globally, my residence." "Certainly, in a world distinct from yours. Naruto is a story about a young ninja who seeks recognition and dreams of becoming the strongest leader of his village. Throughout his journey, he faces various challenges and forms meaningful relationships with friends and rivals alike." B clearly did not fully grasp Naruto's intended meaning. "Could you please explain the purpose of my presence here? I appreciate the opportunity, as I have been seeking a secure location away from the Decepticons for some time." Naruto acknowledged and provided an explanation. "I required companionship at home as much as I required a vehicle for travel, so I considered you a suitable choice. However, if you prefer not to proceed, I can certainly arrange for your return at any time." B was taken aback by this. Could this individual possess such power that he could transport another to a different realm simply for the sake of companionship? If the Autobots were to secure such a formidable ally, they might finally bring an end to the conflict with the Decepticons. Bumblebee, recognizing Naruto's exceptional strength and the kindness he displayed, felt a surge of enthusiasm and resolved to establish a friendship with him. B has consistently been the youngest and most dynamic Autobot. While other Autobots might approach the situation with skepticism, B embraced the opportunity to forge friendships. Recognizing the potential benefits for the Autobots only fueled his enthusiasm to pursue what he enjoyed. "I prefer to remain here, so there is no need for me to be sent back." B expressed enthusiasm. Naruto smiled and retrieved his cell phone. "Are you capable of transforming into the car depicted here?" Naruto remarked as he flipped the screen around to present it to B. B examined the cell phone screen and began analyzing the car from that perspective before articulating her thoughts. "Could you please provide additional images to allow for a comprehensive view of the car from all angles?" Naruto acknowledged and presented a video that the car owner had shared, featuring a comprehensive 360-degree tour of the vehicle, including the bespoke interior. B required just 30 seconds to assess the surroundings before initiating the transformation into vehicle mode. Naruto observed this with keen interest, as he developed an appreciation for Transformers, recognizing the impressive nature of transforming robots. The initial transformation required a bit more time, totaling 15 seconds, but subsequently, a stunning yellow Nissan GT-R R35 with a Rocket Bunny body kit appeared before Naruto. Naruto was visibly impressed while admiring this exquisite car. For a visual representation, please visit our Discord at discord.gg/key35kv7ghr. Despite the snow encasing Naruto's cabin, B had equipped the vehicle with off-road tires, ensuring he could navigate the terrain effortlessly. "Is it truly that way, Naruto?" B inquired with enthusiasm. He had never before undergone such a remarkable transformation into a stunning car. He consistently favored vehicles that were somewhat adorable, as noted by the other Autobots, so ultimately transforming into such an impressive car filled B with a sense of pride. It is excellent, B. Naruto entered the vehicle. As Naruto surveyed the scene, he was astounded by B's ability to flawlessly replicate the video he had presented, capturing even the most intricate details of the interior. Certainly, there was a distinction. In lieu of the GTR logo on the steering wheel of the vehicle, the Autobot logo was prominently displayed instead. Can I drive, B? Naruto requested nicely. Since B was more than just a car, he was almost a genuine person. Of course, I can't wait to try this new look on the road, Naruto. B was also really excited. B always turned into cuter automobiles, which made him slow because they weren't particularly aerodynamic. But this new shape made something in his body shake, and he wanted to feel speed. Let's go, Naruto stated with excitement as he stepped on the throttle and sped toward the cave he had found a few days ago while practicing the elven breath for the first time. He realized that there might be a human civilization on the other side of the cave. He didn't know which one it was, Marvel, DC, or perhaps another world, but he didn't care. He had worked for so long that he wanted to have fun. Naruto drove comfortably through the snow and into the cave since B put off-road wheels on his car. He was surprised to see that this cave had more than one tunnel. Naruto went to the open tunnel, ignoring the pebbles that blocked the other tunnels. 5 minutes later, he and B saw a light on the opposite side. I can feel radio waves on the other side of the tunnel, Naruto. B was warned. Okay, B, Naruto answered without too much worry. They came out of the tunnel and into a woodland. When Naruto peered back in the rearview mirror, he saw that the tunnel had disappeared as soon as he left it. B, please remember where the tunnel is. I think we'll need it when we get back. Naruto said to be careful. Okay, that's already saved. B answered. After a few more minutes, they finally made it out of the woods. Naruto didn't care where he was because he saw a big 2-lane road that went straight for several kilometers. He alerted B. B, can you put on some sportier tires? Naruto sensed the car getting lower before B could answer. Let's go now that it's done. Naruto smiled and yelled as he stepped on the gas since B was so pleased too. Let's go. Haha. Naruto slammed the pedals on that straight road as he heard B's exhaust making a loud noise. The car was going over 200 kilometers per hour, 120 miles per hour, in less than 4 seconds. Even though the car was going fast, Naruto still felt the G-force pinning him to the seat in the same way, which meant that the car was still speeding up. In 6 seconds, they were going 300 kilometers per hour, 180 miles per hour, but Naruto didn't feel like they were slowing down. B finally felt the acceleration slow down at 8 seconds when he reached 400 kilometers per hour, 250 miles per hour. After 10 seconds, the speed eventually stopped changing. They were going 480 kilometers per hour, 300 miles per hour. Naruto thought his heart was about to explode out of his mouth because he was so full of adrenaline. Yahoo! When B turned up the radio and played "Murder in My Mind," Naruto shrieked with excitement. A regular GTR couldn't go that fast, and even if it could, the chances of the tires not holding up or the car losing stability because of a tiny mistake would be quite high. But B wasn't just any car. He was an Autobot with technology that was thousands of years ahead of what automobile makers on Earth have. If Naruto hadn't stopped speeding up so rapidly, it would be easy to achieve 600 kilometers per hour, 370 miles per hour. They were quite excited. Naruto saw a red 1962 Corvette in the distance in front of him, but he passed it quickly and couldn't see any of the driver's features. There was a sign on the side of the Corvette that said, "Welcome to Salem Center." The two people in the Corvette simply saw a yellow flash go by very quickly. The Corvette was thrown off balance by the wind that the car's rear vacuum created. The driver of the Corvette was astonished to see that he was traveling 160 kilometers per hour, 100 miles per hour, on the speedometer. When the yellow car passed them, it felt like they were standing still. "Fuck Scott," What the fuck was that? A boy with blue hair murmured in disbelief as he watched the yellow car go away. Scott, who was in the driver's seat, was still in shock. Scott had already taken his 1962 Corvette to the track a few times and reached 230 kilometers per hour, 140 miles per hour, so he was always proud of it, even if it was an old car. But this was the first time someone had ever passed him. I think it was a Nissan GTR, but it wasn't pure. Scott said to Kurt, who was next to him. Do you have any questions? We were doing 100 miles per hour, and that GTR passed us like we were standing still. It was going at least 220 miles per hour. Damn. Kurt was happy to remember. People say that these cars are quite prevalent in LA, but I don't think even LA cars could keep up with this crazy person. Scott said something. Scott and Kurt officially entered the city after discussing about it for a few minutes. Scott, look over there. Kurt pointed to one side. Scott was interested, but as he saw, his heart raced like a car lover's. There was a lovely Nissan GTR R35 parked on the side of the road. The original car was beautiful, but this model had a Rocket Bunny body kit and some decals that made it much more attractive. There was a boy with messy grayish-yellow hair next to the automobile. His eyes were red and his teeth were a little long, and he had whiskers like a small animal. These traits were odd on their own, yet they seemed to work well together in the boy. The boy looked quite important, yet he was merely leaning against the car with a glass of Coke in one hand and a big slice of pizza in the other hand, looking very content. Scott didn't think twice about pulling into the slot because the boy looked to be no more than 20, which was quite near to Kurt and Scott's age, plus he was driving that magnificent Nissan GTR, adjacent to the car of the boy. The child raised an eyebrow and stared at the red Corvette that pulled up next to him. He was intrigued about the driver. Scott smiled and said hello to the youngster as he stepped out of the car. Bro, what a beast you're driving, huh? Scott exclaimed with excitement as he pointed to the GTR. Scott was usually a very serious and quiet person, but when it came to vehicles, he was like a child again. The child who was eating next to the automobile smiled and said something with his small animal teeth. B is a real little monster, even I'm surprised by him. Beep, beep, the boy repeated that, and the automobile beeped the alarm twice, as if it had heard him. This made Scott even more delighted. He also wanted to be able to put this in his car. How many horses does the bee have? Scott questioned with excitement, remembering what the child had said. He understood that automobile aficionados like to give their cars names. For example, Scott called his red Corvette Scarlet, and the child dubbed his yellow GTR B. He knew that the world's most powerful GTR had 2,500 horsepower, and considering the pace at which this boy passed him, the difference between them might not have been that big. Scott couldn't tell how fast the GTR was going when it passed him, after all. The child stopped to think for a minute after Scott asked him a question and then answered. I didn't get to pass him on the dyno, but I'd guess he had 4,000 to 5,000 horsepower because he hit 300 miles per hour on the road here. Scott and Kurt both felt their legs shake as they heard this. The fastest GTR in the world only went 317 kilometers per hour, 197 miles per hour, so they were startled to hear that the B in front of them went almost 50% faster. Man, what did you put on that hood? A jet engine? Kurt asked. The boy just laughed and nodded. Close to that. Scott and Kurt believed what the youngster stated since they knew how powerful that car was. The three of them talked for a few more minutes as the child ate. Do you guys know of any fun things to do in town? It's my first time here, and I wanted to have some fun, the child said. When the youngster asked, Scott and Kurt both remembered that they had to travel somewhere before they could talk to him. Damn it, we forgot to meet the girls. Kurt shouted in fear when he remembered. Jean will be very angry. Scott was not happy, until Kurt had an idea. Bro, do you want to come with us? We're going to a festival in town with some pals. It will be enjoyable. The child considered for a moment before nodding his head and saying yes. Clear. Kurt and Scott were delighted about this because the kid seemed pretty nice and they all liked the same kinds of automobiles. They all got along right away. Scott and Kurt went back to the Corvette while the boy went back to the GTR. They decided that the boy would follow them to the festival. Kurt and Scott looked at one another and smiled with excitement when they heard the GTR's exhaust roar, which was almost deafening. But they saw something on the way to the festival. We forgot to ask what his name was, didn't we? Scott was a little uncomfortable about it too, but Kurt thought it was funny. Naruto was singing along to a song on the radio while following Scott's Corvette to the festival. He was excited and hoped it would be fun. Naruto was very astonished to run into two of the X-Men while enjoying a walk with Bee. He didn't realize he was driving Scott's Corvette since he went past it so quickly. But when he saw Scott wearing the red ruby glasses and Kurt standing next to him with somewhat blue hair that reached his shoulders, it was easy to tell who they were. Naruto had never eaten NY-style pizza before, so he decided to swing by one of the businesses that sold it to sample it. Sadly, his hopes were not satisfied. He was only eating meals from the world of Shokugeki no Soma, where they made food taste as good as possible. This pizza was not as good as he thought it would be. But that wasn't bad either. Naruto ate it all. Naruto remembered the name of the city and recognized that he had entered the city where the Xavier Institute resided, which is where the X-Men live. Naruto asked the two boys he was talking to whether there was anything fun to do as he knew they resided in this area and wanted to make the most of his day off. He didn't think Scott and Kurt would ask him to go to a festival with the females. Will Anna be there? Naruto thought about this as he drove behind Scott's Corvette. Scott's Corvette is already well known in the area because the city isn't very big. Even though it's a very beautiful and eye-catching car, people walking by had already seen it a few times, which took away some of its novelty. However, the yellow GTR with that sporty look quickly caught people's attention. As they walked by, people were pointing and grabbing their phones to capture the moment. At first, Naruto thought it was pretty cool, but as time went on, he got used to it. For someone who had millions of eyes on him in amazement while he sported Notch's skin, having just a few dozen people looking at him like that didn't really faze him anymore. After a few minutes, Naruto noticed a bustling square filled with parked cars, making it tough for him to find a spot to park to. So, it turns out Scott found a quieter place to park and ended up next to this big SUV that had a bit of a military vibe to it. Maybe this SUV is the one the girls used to arrive. I recall that the Xavier Institute had a bunch of vehicles for all sorts of situations. Naruto pondered as he finally parked next to Scott. B, if anything seems off, just roll up to me in car form first. If I need your help, you can switch to robot mode, but let's try to keep that under wraps for now. Naruto explained, and B was on board with it. Naruto, if you run into any issues, just use this device. I saw a bunch of people using something like a recording device on our way here, so I went ahead and tweaked it a bit to make it even better. B mentioned as a yellow cell phone popped up in the glove compartment he just opened. Naruto raised an eyebrow in surprise as he picked up his cell phone and glanced at it. He was taken aback to see that it was running iOS, but then he remembered how advanced Transformer technology was. It made sense, really. For a robot that can shoot lasers and replicate any car, creating a small cell phone replica isn't such a big deal after all. As Naruto glanced at his phone, he couldn't help but think it was pretty cool that the skin featured stickers from car brands like HKS and Voltex. It really gave the phone a vibe that matched his car perfectly. Alright, B, Naruto said with a smile as he opened the door and stepped out of the car. What's going on with Scott? I figured he'd arrive before we did. Kitty grumbled as she glanced around the spot they had decided to park in. I was thinking the same thing, especially with how he drives like a maniac. Jean Grey was also grumbling as she glanced around. Anna was the only one who stayed quiet, leaning against the wall and casually fiddling with her cell phone, not really concerned about anything. Honestly, she really didn't feel like leaving the house, but since she thought the festival theme was intriguing, she chose to go with the girls. She really doesn't want to come because she thinks Scott will be all about trying to get Jean's attention, even though Jean isn't that into him. Plus, Kurt and Kitty will likely just wander off to do their own things since they prefer more playful activities. So, just like when she usually spent time with these four, she probably ended up feeling a bit left out. Sure, Jean still paid attention to her, but she could tell that Jean had a bit of a soft spot for Scott too, which made it tough to feel great about the whole situation. A loud noise soon caught the attention of the three girls. Jean and Kitty fell silent, and Anna put her phone down as all three turned to see what was making the noise. They were aware that Scott's car engine had some serious power and that his exhaust was pretty loud, but honestly, the noise they were hearing was on a whole different level. Out of nowhere, they spotted Scott's red Corvette rounding the corner in the distance. They figured he must have made some changes to the car to create that sound. But just a few seconds later, a stunning yellow sports car came into view, trailing slowly behind Scott's ride. "What car is that?" Kitty asked with excitement, since she had never seen that car before. Jean felt a bit puzzled as she gazed at that stunning yellow car. Even she, who never really cared much for cars and thought of them as just a way to get from point A to point B, had to admit that this one looked pretty stylish. Only Anna had a bit of an idea about what car it was. "I believe that car is called the GTR." She had watched a video where a YouTuber had just bought that car, so the name was still fresh in her mind. But this yellow GTR she was looking at was way prettier than what she saw in the video. "I think this car might get some modifications." She quickly figured it out when she heard the car rumble again. As Anna thought about how different this yellow GTR was from what she had seen in the video, she couldn't help but be surprised by the amount of time and effort the owner must have put into the car. The girls were even more surprised when Scott pulled up next to them, and then a yellow GTR pulled up right next to Scott. Could it be a friend of Scott's? Kitty looked a bit puzzled. Because Scott's Corvette was a convertible, you could spot him and Kurt before they even opened the door and hopped out of the car. On the other hand, the GTR had blacked out windows, so you couldn't tell who was behind the wheel at all. The person in the car took a few seconds after turning it off before opening the door, but when the boy stepped out of the room, the three girls reacted in their own unique ways. Kitty found it super cute that the boy had teeth like a little animal. Jean was taken aback that she couldn't hear this boy's thoughts like she usually did with others. Anna couldn't believe her eyes when the boy stepped out of the car. He was just her type. Even though Anna had a goth style, she wasn't really into goth boys. She was quite vain about her appearance, always taking great care of her hair and skin. But the boys in that scene often seemed a bit careless, with long, dry hair and worn-out clothes, and some didn't even bother with perfume. The boy who got out of the GTR looked a bit older than her. He had yellow hair and red eyes that kind of reminded her of a vampire. If it hadn't been for the way his teeth resembled a little animal when he smiled, she might have actually thought she was dealing with a vampire. "That smile is just adorable," she pondered while looking at the boy. As the boy glanced at the three of them, his eyes locked onto Anna's for a brief moment. They held each other's gaze for a few seconds until Anna, feeling a bit shy, turned her eyes away. The boy grinned even more as he strolled over to them, tucking his cell phone into his pocket. Kitty was surprised when she noticed that the boy's cell phone matched his car. She thought it was really cute. "Girls, so we made a friend along the way. We stopped to chat with him by that bubble tea shop that Kitty loves, which is why we're a bit late." Kurt pointed at Naruto and explained. Scott went on to explain. He just got into town and wanted to know if there was anything fun to check out while he's here, so we asked him. Naruto was pretty chill and gave a wave to the girls while introducing himself with a grin. "Naruto. I'm Kitty." Kitty jumped right in and introduced herself with her vibrant personality. "Wow, your name is just like Kitten." Naruto playfully teased her, and the little girl couldn't help but smile with excitement. "Yeah," she said yes. When Kitty introduced herself, Jean shook off her surprise at not being able to read Naruto's mind and politely introduced herself too. "I'm Jean." "Hi Jean." Naruto replied politely too, since she came across as a more mature and serious girl. As Naruto looked at the last girl, he noticed she seemed a bit shy and decided to wait. "I'm Anna." Anna went ahead and introduced herself too. Anna, I really like your hair. He pointed to the white streaks in her hair, and that made her smile. While Naruto seemed to take it in stride, the other four were taken aback by Anna's attitude. She was always that girl with a really strong personality, and it matched her dark makeup. So, when she started acting a bit shy, everyone was pretty surprised. Noticing that everyone seemed a bit lost in thought, Naruto decided to speak up and glanced over at the two boys. How about you? You still haven't shared your names with me, haha. Scott and Kurt exchanged a shy glance before breaking into smiles as they responded. I'm Scott. And I'm Kurt. Naruto nodded and asked again. What's going on with the festival? What's the theme of it? When they heard this, everyone got all excited and rushed over to the SUV to grab something from the trunk while chatting away. So, this isn't really a festival or anything, but the people in town thought it would be fun to get together and sell some Minecraft stuff, you know. Kitty shared her thoughts. Upon hearing this, Naruto raised an eyebrow. Oh, I really do. That sounds pretty interesting. Even though Naruto created Minecraft, he was really curious about the game products these people made. Out of nowhere, he noticed that the five of them were putting on the Ender Dragon capes they got from the game, and Kurt was asking him something. Do you have any Minecraft skins too? Naruto took a moment to think, then nodded and popped open the trunk of the car. With the trunk open in a spot they couldn't see, Naruto used one gaming point to grab an Ender Dragon cape, too, which caught the X-Men group off guard. Do you have a cape like that as well? What's your in-game name? Kitty exclaimed with excitement as she noticed Naruto's cloak, realizing it was just like theirs. Naruto just shook his head and then started to explain. I'm just playing solo. Noticing that Naruto was a bit quiet, they quickly switched topics and headed over to the festival. As Naruto was driving, he didn't really pay attention to the people in capes. But now that he's out and about in the crowd, he can't help but notice all these people sporting capes with the H of the players who protect Hypixel. This cape is different from the Ender Dragon cape, which players got for free. The Hypixel cape, on the other hand, had to be purchased by the player to bring it into the real world. So, Naruto decided not to offer any discounts. It took one gaming point to create a skin from this era, and he priced it at $220 to make sure he could still make a profit from the sales. Because of the high price, not a lot of people picked it up, but that small number was just a drop in the bucket compared to the total player base. The last time Naruto checked the cover sales, they had already surpassed 500,000 units sold. Naruto ended up with a profit of 50,000 gaming points. While it might not seem like a huge deal compared to what he had overall, it was definitely a handy boost. Check it out. That store has golden apples for sale. Kurt was really looking forward to heading to the store. The rest were curious, too, and decided to check out this apple. As they walked through the crowd, everyone couldn't help but stare in awe at the Ender Dragon cloaks they had on. Even though some shops were selling fake covers, none could match the quality of the originals, which was obvious right away. You know, when you see this group of 6 people rocking those Ender Dragon capes, it really can only mean one thing. They're the ones who took down the Ender Dragon back in the early days of Minecraft. Does that taste good? Kitty looked at Kurt munching on the golden apple and asked with a hint of curiosity. Kurt just wore a casual look and took another bite before he replied. It's a golden love apple. When they heard this, the others felt a bit let down, but they still went ahead and bought a golden apple. Quote, even Naruto grabbed one and started munching while checking out his surroundings. Naruto glanced over at Anna and noticed she seemed a bit uneasy, so he asked her about it. Is everything okay? Anna noticed Naruto's worry and let out a sigh. I really don't feel great in crowds. Naruto nodded and began chatting with her, hoping she could help distract. All around them were all sorts of Minecraft-themed stuff, but Naruto didn't really find anything that caught his eye. Interestingly, the top sellers were replicas of diamond capes and swords, which just so happened to be quite popular in this world, too. Even though these things might be fascinating to others, Naruto just thought they were pretty average. That was kind of fun. Kitty said as they strolled back to their cars, juggling a bunch of accessories she thought were pretty cool. Even Jean, Kurt, and Scott were loaded down with a bunch of stuff, leaving just Naruto and Anna with only a diamond sword in Anna's hand and a couple of Blaze's head plushies that Naruto picked up to hang on B's rearview mirror. So, you're a fan of yellow, huh? Anna glanced at the yellow plushies in Naruto's hands, and with his matching car and cell phone in mind, she felt even more convinced. Naruto glanced at her and gave a smile. What a beautiful color. Once the X-Men wrapped up packing the boxes in the SUV, they turned to Naruto and asked him a question. Naruto, how about we head over to our place? We're thinking of ordering pizza today. Scott asked Naruto to join in. Since it was getting close to night, Naruto felt a bit tired and decided to head home first before diving back into developing Fortnite. Everyone, I've still got some work to wrap up, but maybe we can catch up next week. Naruto replied. When they heard this, they felt a bit let down, but they went along with it anyway. Alright, I'll message you if anything comes up. Kurt waved his phone around. Naruto had swapped phone numbers with everyone, so it would be easier to reach him the next time he went out to relax. So, when Naruto took off in his GTR, Jean said something that really caught everyone off guard. I feel like he's a mutant, too. Stay tuned for more. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this video. I'm thrilled you watched the video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like and subscribe for even more exciting content coming your way soon.